Ely Dummer Andy joining us, Ballyho Andy, Machine inside the chat, Ballyho Machine. And we're going to say one more thank you to Rusty. Thank you so much, Rusty. Over $50 inside the dome from Rusty tonight. Thank you, my friend. Tom Homan, Meet the Press, just from yesterday.
And joining me now is White House Border Czar Tom Homan.
We love Homan inside the dome.
Acting ICE director in President Trump's first term. Mr. Homan, welcome to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So the world has now seen that video.
The world
from the officer. I wonder, Mr. Homan, what do you see in that video?
Look, it's tragic. And I've said from March, if the hateful rhetoric doesn't decline, there's going to be bloodshed. I've seen this movie before. And unfortunately, I was right. And there's been a lot of bloodshed. But look, you got to put yourself in the mind of the officer, right? You're in a city where there's protests, interference, impediment, like these two ladies were doing before this incident occurred. You're in a city where law enforcement response is sporadic at best. You got threats up over 13%.
That means that the actual law enforcement from the city is not helping ICE at all.
To ICE officers. You got a woman behind the wheel of a 4,000-pound vehicle, revving her engine, going towards you. I truly believe this officer, in his mind, thought his life was in danger, which allows him to use lethal force. Now, I'll say this, let the investigation play out, right? There's a lot of video we probably haven't seen that the FBI has that we don't. Where's the forensics in the ballistics? That hasn't been unleashed. How about the officer's statements, his own statements? So we need to let this play out.
I saw the bullet hole of the gun, the bullet hole is in the front windshield. So the guy was obviously in front.
While we're doing that, we got to stop the hateful rhetoric. Saying this officer's a murderer is dangerous. It's just ridiculous. It's just going to infuriate people more, which means there's going to be more incidents like this because the hateful rhetoric is not only continuing, now it's tripled down and doubled down.
Mr. Homan, let me ask you, because you have yet again here today.
Pant says, "Is your tongue green?" No,
Charles
it's blue.
0528 invested $5.
It's blue, methylene blue. Charles says, like I said, loader equipped with forks. Ballyho Charles, another $5 investment from Charles. Let's go, Charles. Welcome to the dome, man.
You said you want the investigation to play out. This is something you said in the immediate aftermath of this shooting. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem called
By the way, Charles, I read stuff that people don't put investments behind. So hang out with us, Charles. Definitely, if you want to keep giving me money, keep giving me money. But I'm just saying, this stream is very, very chat interactive heavy. I'll read everybody's stuff. Thank you, Charles.
Quote, act of domestic terrorism. President Trump said Renee Good, quote, violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer. How can the public trust the investigation when there has already been this judgment passed down by the president and some of his top officials?
Look, we've all seen the video.
Ballyho Sedan, welcome in.
Again, no one knows what's in that officer's mind. You don't, I don't, no one does. But we're gonna let the investigation play out. But bottom line is, why are we even there? Why are we in Minneapolis? Because it's a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state. Bill Maloogian from Fox News just put out a list of like 18 people, dangerous, worst of the worst that ICE is taking into custody. Many of them, child sodomy, child rape. ICE is out looking for dangerous people. It's not okay to impede and interfere with an officer. Would it be okay if a citizen impeded and interfered with a U.S. Marshal arresting a fugitive? No. Is it okay if they stood in before the FBI when they're going to arrest a terrorist? No. These are targeted enforcement operations. They're arresting bad people. And it's illegal. Let's remember, what she did was a crime. It's illegal to interfere and impede with ICE law enforcement officers. That's why we're there.
And yet what Minneapolis officials are arguing is that the way that ICE officials are carrying out their duties may be adding to the tension. Secretary Noem labeled this an act of domestic terrorism. What's the evidence for that allegation, Mr. Homan?
Bottom line is, again, why we're in Minneapolis. If they didn't have the sanctuary policies they had.
But do you have evidence that she's a domestic terrorist?
Let me finish this, because this is important. Less officers in the community if we were in the jail. Bottom line, we are forced into the community because the governor of that state and the mayor support sanctuary cities, where child rapists are released back in the community to create a huge public safety threat. So if you want less officers in the street, then let us into jail.
And I'm going to talk to Mayor Frey about the sanctuary city policies there, but I want to stay on this question, which is about the way in which the woman who was shot and killed is being labeled as a domestic terrorist. Just to be clear, is anyone who protests ICE a domestic terrorist in the eyes of the administration?
I can't
Sounds like it to me.
say that. You know, it's a case-by-case basis, but you know, if you look up the definition of terrorism, is there violence? Is there threat of violence based on an ideology that wants to change the way the government does what we do? Look up the definition of terrorism.
But was Secretary Noem correct to label her a domestic terrorist, Mr. Homan?
Look, we don't know what, I don't know what Secretary Noem knows and what I know. I can tell you is what they did is illegal. And if you look up this definition of terrorism, it certainly could fall within that definition if you look at the definition of terrorism.
But you don't have evidence.
Pardon me?
You don't have evidence that she's a domestic terrorist.
I don't know what...
You mean other than the fact that she tried to run over an officer?
Secretary has...
And that she was following and tailing all day long?
I don't. I'm not going to judge what the secretary says, but if you look
exactly,
up the
Philadelphia freedom,
it can fall within that. But I think we all got to agree there was no reason for this lady to do what she did. There's no reason to be there. If you want to protest, protest, but don't actively impede and interfere, and certainly don't drive a 4,000-pound vehicle toward an officer.
Let me ask you about the broader investigation, because that's part of what the investigation is trying to unpack. What exactly happened in the moments leading up to the incident and afterwards? State and local officials are currently being excluded from the federal investigation. The Hennepin County attorney said this on Friday. I want to get your reaction on the other side.
I cannot overstate the importance of a local investigation, or at least access to the federal investigation by the BCA. Without it, we will not have the ability to be transparent with our community about the results of the expectation, or, as I said, any decision that might come of the review.
Mr. Homan, I've been talking to law enforcement experts.
Elita Mawali says Mr. Rotella, she also belonged to an ICE agitation group in Minneapolis. I saw that as well, Wally. And one of the things that they shared was how to impede ICE with each other. So I mean, sounds like a domestic terrorist to me. Elita Taz joining us. What's up, Taz? Nice to see you. Taz says, I can't wait for the next thing to happen so we can talk about this. So we stop talking about this dumbass woman, says Taz. Ballyho Taz.
They have never heard of state and local officials being cut out of a federal investigation. How can the public trust the results of this investigation if it doesn't include state and local officials, the people who are there on the ground?
Well, first of all, this is a federal crime.
But it happened in Minneapolis.
It's a federal crime, and the jurisdiction clearly falls within the FBI. I've been doing this since 1984. When a federal officer is involved with the shooting, it's up to the investigation goes to the FBI. It's been that way forever. And where were all these people? You know, it shocks me. They have these subpoenas now. When they stood aside and let child rapists be released from jail back in the community.
But it's one thing to have the FBI be...
They're complicit why we're in the position we are today. They're complicit from their silence from an open border for 4 years.
Ballyho UFO,
people released
Johnny.
In this country, many of them public safety...
Lesbians matter. Thank you, UFO, Johnny.
They were silent when 500,000 children were trafficked in this country, and they lost track of 300,000 of them.
What you're describing, though, it's one thing for the FBI to take the lead in an investigation. Certainly, that is something that we are
God,
used to
I hate
seeing.
her facial expressions, don't you?
To be cut out altogether, are you?
Or maybe I just hate her face.
Doesn't that undercut the transparency, the sense of faith in the investigation in the eyes of the public?
First of all, that's a question for the FBI. I've never worked for DOJ, but listen, I trust that the FBI would do a thorough investigation. They're professionals. So let them do the investigation. Let's see the investigation.
Should the autopsy be made public?
That's a question for the FBI, but I certainly will tell you that the FBI will be part of the investigation. Like I said earlier, look at the ballistics, look at the forensics. Okay. Where did that fatal shot come from? All that would be part of the investigation.
Okay, the vice president.
M. Wiles says we know more about Renee than Thomas Crooks. That is so true, M. Wiles.
Defended Officer Ross on Thursday. I want to play a little bit of what he said for you. Take a look at what he said.
What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?
Do you think that experience from 6 months ago, which the vice president detailed, may have impacted Officer Ross's judgment? Is that the argument?
It may have. I mean, he was under attack once with a vehicle, so certainly, and like I said earlier, it's totality of the circumstance, just to that prior incident. Yeah. But the environment right now with the threats against ICE officers have been shot at. They've had Molotov cocktails thrown on them. They've been doxxed. They've been, again.
Charles wants to put her in a porta potty and tip it over.
8,000%. And you're in a situation with this lady where it's impeding and interfering already. He's in a dangerous situation. And again, I want people to understand this. Put yourself in his shoes. Put yourself in his shoes where he's in that environment. Assault against ICE.
Sedan says, give him a timeout, Mr. Rotella. Charles just gave Mr. Rotella $10 in Dome investments tonight. Charles is new to the Dome. He doesn't know that there's no poop jokes. No poop jokes, Charles.
All-time high. You have a vehicle
that will give you a 5-minute timeout
and accelerates toward
him. And 5-minute timeouts are not bad. They're fun.
That decision. And I truly believe, and again, this will come out in the investigation, that in his mind, he feared for his life and he took appropriate action. And that, and according to federal law, that's a legitimate response. And even according to Minnesota law, Minnesota state law even talks about a vehicle coming towards you and your right to defend yourself. This officer, I think in his mind, did the right thing to save his own life and life of others.
You are talking about the perspective of ICE officers. I want to zoom out.
Of course you can, M. Wiles.
And talk about the perspective.
Have you ever seen me give Ron Cargo a timeout?
Country. There have been 9 ICE-involved shootings since September. By one count, ICE has detained 170 U.S. citizens. People across this country, as you have seen, Mr. Homan.
What's up, Amy? Ely Domer, welcome in, miss.
ICE's actions. How do you justify an enforcement strategy that is making so many people feel less safe?
Because of the false media reports, because members of Congress who want to compare ICE to terrorists.
No, but these are protesters saying this. But these are protesters saying this. I'm asking you to respond to the protesters who say they feel less safe, who say they're concerned for their neighbors.
Then stay at home.
They're looking at media reports and saying ICE are terrorists, they're racist, they're the Nazis. They're listening to people saying that, using the term disappearing people. ICE is doing the same thing they've done for 40 years. ICE is an enforcement law. If you don't like what ICE is doing, go protest Congress. ICE is enforcing laws enacted by Congress. For any member of Congress to say that ICE is a Nazi or a racist or secret police, really? Because they're enforcing laws you enacted. If they're a racist for enforcing law, what's that make you? You wrote the law. And let's remember the true data. The true data, 70%, approximately, it goes anywhere from 60 to 70, of people they're arresting are criminals. Bottom line. But some of the media says, no, that's not true, because they think DUI isn't a crime. DUI kills 13,000 people a year. I think it's a huge public safety issue. It's because of the rhetoric, the hateful rhetoric. So that small population out there that's already half nuts, they hear this rhetoric that ICE is racist and they're Nazis and they're disappearing people. That empowers them to do stupid things.
Let me ask you, because we're almost out of time, I do want to give you the opportunity to respond to some lingering questions about you. As you know, in an undercover operation in 2024, the FBI recorded you accepting a bag which was determined to contain $50,000 from agents posing as business executives who said you indicated you could help win government contracts in the second Trump administration. I want to stress there was an investigation. It was closed last year. The Justice Department said it found, quote, no credible evidence of any criminal wrongdoing. I do want to give you an opportunity to respond, though, Mr. Homan. Where is that $50,000? Did you keep it or did you return it?
I didn't take $50,000 from anybody, and that's a question for the FBI. I'm not going to give the story anymore, Aaron. Bottom line, I did nothing illegal. I did nothing, and the FBI and DOJ reviewed this. No credible evidence I did anything, because I didn't do anything illegal.
But was there $50,000 in the bag, and did you return it?
I'm not giving the story anymore here. This is an attack on my integrity and my professionalism. I'm not addressing it. But that's a question with the FBI.
Can you address, given that it's been recorded, did you keep the money? Did you return the money?
I did not keep any. $50,000 is ridiculous. The FBI has been clearing this, and it irritates me. This story keeps going on and on and on, even though I've been found to do nothing inappropriate, so I'm not going to ask any more of these questions.
But just did you return the money?
I didn't have any money to return.
Okay.
I didn't take the $50,000, bottom line.
Let me ask you, you're saying you did nothing unlawful. Would you be comfortable
Jesus.
with the FBI releasing the recordings
That's
of this incident?
a decision of the FBI.
But it might be a decision for the FBI, but would you be comfortable if they released
Again, I'm not
those
getting ahead.
recordings?
I'm not getting ahead of the FBI in this investigation.
But can you just say, on a personal level, would you be comfortable releasing the recordings?
I am not going to get ahead of the FBI. That's their decision.
Okay. All right. Mr. Homan, thank you very much for being here.
God.
Thank
We
you.
greatly appreciate it.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on...
What's up, Elite Domer Palms? Welcome in, Ballyho.